Hello, and welcome back to the definitive Starship Review series without access to a proper table, where today, by what quite frankly should have been anticipated demand, we are looking at the USS Prometheus with the aid of the old Eaglemoss models. Oh yes, last week when we reviewed the Titan, I was sure it was going to be the Prometheus, because it's the Prometheus, but I neglected to expect the popularity of the Titan, the overwhelming popularity, and then just forgot to consider the overwhelming popularity of the Prometheus once the Titan was removed from the list. Now, the Prometheus is, of course, a starship that the fan base absolutely adore, that is consistently ranked as one of the best starships, one of people's favorite designs, and always comes up in Starfleet's best for some reason. Yes, especially given I own an XL Prometheus from Eaglemoss, I've probably just made quite a few people upset, because the Prometheus, it's never really a model that's gelled with me. A ship. I'm gonna still call these models because I'm holding models. I'm used to model reviews, but yes, it's a ship that's never quite gelled with me. Went ahead and grabbed the small one as well because honestly, I actually think this works better than the XL one. But the Prometheus, yeah, Voyager. For me, I watched all of Deep Space Nine, then Voyager, and I think that adds a lot to Voyager. I think when Voyager is the last series, well, when it was the furthest series ahead in the timeline, it added so much, like, wanting to connect with that Federation, that Alpha Quadrant, and learn what's going on, particularly after you've just finished Deep Space Nine, which really sets that tone. And then knowing you're not going to get it, but also feeling that isolation in Voyager, like that the actual crew is feeling, like, what's going on? What are we missing out on? What's happening? And so when we actually saw another Federation starship, I mean, yeah, I was interested. It'd been, God, what, 5-6 seasons probably since we'd seen a new Federation starship? Voyager. Actually, probably the Equinox. But yeah, needless to say, I was looking forward to a new one, but I don't know, it was never really much to me. Like, it's kind of bland. There's not much going on, but not in the same way of, say, the original Enterprise, the TOS one, where there weren't any greeblies. It was smooth because that was futuristic, and there was a very intentional design philosophy in that. I'm not sure I've reviewed that ship yet, actually. I'll save that for that review. But the Prometheus just felt undesigned. Like, what's all going on here? It's the same thing I've talked about with the Excelsior class. There's just nothing. I think it's why the small one works better, because it's a bit more textured, but also there's just less space for nothing to happen, if that makes sense. And it was just such a weird shape design thing, and of course that's because we learn it splits off into 3 starships, which themselves I've always kind of found unimpressing. I don't actually remember. Is it just this tiny bit where the third ship pops up? Like, I know this is the nacelle, but, like, that's a good underside for a starship. Kind of like the Equinox, whatever. Then there's just nothing on top. There's nothing on bottom, because it's where the ships connects. It's just flat and dull in the same way. And they don't really gel separately. And also just in general, there are exceptions. The Defiant, I think I mentioned this before. Maybe it's in next week's video, which is when my partner reviews a bunch of starships. Gene Roddenberry and I think Matt Probert, the guy who designed the original Enterprise, came up with rules, a set of 4 rules for designing starships. And God, the bridge is on top. The cells come in pairs, ideally in 2. Admittedly, they can't be 4 in those rules, but, like, it's basically a rule that they come in 2. You technically could have as many pairs as you want, as long as it's an even number, but basically 2. Mostly empty space in between them. I think it's like 60%, 90%. One of those empty space between the nacelles and the Bassard collectors on the front. Those were the rules that were basically never followed since the Constitution class. But I've always generally found the starships that live by those rules more appealing. Not because they're Gene Roddenberry's rules. I mean, I don't think I knew about the rules of starships until well into watching Star Trek. But I think it comes back to just speaking that language. And I know I'm in the minority. Most of the fan base loves 4 nacelles. They adore 3 nacelles, the weirdos. Please like and subscribe. But yeah, it's you weirdos. But yeah, I don't know. I usually don't do them. The Stargazer, the original Stargazer, that's another one that's like 4 nacelles. I like. It does happen. I don't know. I'm just more preconditioned to dislike the multi-nacelles, or rather they're more likely to not gel for me. And I mean, I'm not sure exactly what it is. We have kind of arrowhead-shaped saucers, like the Voyager, roughly. I'm probably not thinking of it, but I'm sure we have like genuine arrowhead designs now, more like the Prometheus. But yeah, I don't know. It was always weird. And now that modern Star Trek's kind of come out, we've got the coveted post Nemesis content. You see the Protostar in Voyager, but you never see it again. And this was supposed to be like the ultimate weapon. I mean, it's an NX, it's a test bed. I guess it didn't work out, but like, why are the Romulans trying to steal it as well? Aren't we allied to the Romulans? Like it. I don't know. That always felt kind of weird. Star Trek doesn't really like acknowledging Deep Space Nine, even through to like Odo's appearance on Prodigy. For some reason, they just don't really like looking at Deep Space Nine. I don't know. It's fine. It's not like an awful design. I just never really. I've never got it. I don't get it, I guess. The interiors were way too sparse for me. I know it was automated, and that's kind of the point. It was supposed to be sparse, and like no one ran it, but it was just kind of nothing, I guess. It kind of makes sense in universe. I'll give it credit that like it's an NX. It's a like prototype warship. I don't know. Is this a proper warship? Like the Defiant, they wouldn't acknowledge it, but this they might have had to. And so, you're not going to deal so much with the detailing, whatever. If anything, it's maybe over designed for like a prototype warship. I mean, think of the Romulan Warbird, the original one from Balance of Terror, that didn't even have a warp drive because it was a prototype. But I don't know. It does. If that's the excuse, it doesn't change the fact that it's still not too interesting to look at. And the gimmick of the starship separating apart, like, I don't really get either, because you have to have the independent things. Like, they all have warp cores, if I remember correctly. Well, like, yeah, at least these two do, because they have the separate nacelles. And if you can't go to warp, there's no point in the separate nacelles. So they're gonna have at least the 2 separate warp cores. They need distinct, like, impulsy engine stuff on all 3 sections. You basically tripled all your requirements. And you'll need 3 bridges now. You need, like, more deflector dishes. Is that a deflector dish? I'm not sure. Well, you couldn't go to warp if you don't have the deflector dishes. So, like, what happens if this bit gets destroyed? You're just kind of screwed. And I get the advantage of having 3 ships as opposed to 1, but why not just build 3 ships? Like, is the Prometheus really better than like 3 Defiants that are going to be much smaller? You could probably build 5 Defiants for 1 Prometheus. If you want something big like capital ship, get your Sovereigns or maybe your Galaxies. I guess they didn't really have a capital ship in this era because the Galaxy was a bit outdated and the Sovereign wasn't yet into production. This was maybe, let's say it was produced alongside the Sovereign, but I guess, yeah, the Sovereign won out. That's my point, is I don't really see the benefit of having 1 ship that breaks into 3 ships, because you get the benefit of having 3 ships, but at the extra cost of like having to get them to dock and also just having a less useful bigger ship. If you want these small fighter things, then build smallish fighters that go inside a big ship. Like, or again, just build some Defiants. Build like a medium ship and a Defiant, and bam, you've just kind of got... I don't get it. And this pinned in the nacelle again, this becomes a 1 nacelle ship. So yeah, it has a warp core, because it's got a nacelle. You wouldn't need a nacelle unless you're going to warp. And so one nacelle ships have always been, again, the kind of the weirdest of the bunch. I mean, I kind of like the Freedom class, but it's kind of just weird. Like, there's no getting around that. The one nacelle ships are weird. And I wish I had models of, like, the separated components. But when I first saw the ship, it was a while ago. I don't quite remember. But I remember the vague feelings of, this is kind of a weird design. There's a lot that doesn't make sense. It's kind of weird. And then the moment it split apart, I wasn't like, oh my god, that's so cool. I went, oh, suddenly your weird design decisions make sense. And, like, I see why. I might have even had the ship thought that looked like several ships glued together. But then I didn't think, wow, those are like 3 good looking ships. I went, yeah, those are just like, now I see why you designed it what you did. It's still got, like, even more of these flat bits and doesn't quite work for me, but I see what you did. I think what I like the most about the kind of Prometheus story is that the fan base loves it and adores it. It's like an amazing ship, but in universe, they seem to also react to it like me, because they built it. I mean, I'll grant it's probably worth looking into. Like, if you're in the height of the Dominion War, look at the real wars that we've had, the big ones. Is a species, we get crazy military schemes just to kind of see what works. But this was one, they built the NX, and it proved itself as not working, especially when, like, a small Romulan fleet could take it out easier than, like, a small Federation fleet of about the same materials. So we'd never see it again. Like, there's no Prometheus in Picard Season 2. They send the Titan, a admittedly well-equipped science vessel, to fight the Borg, well, more Luna classes, rather. They don't send a single Prometheus. They send Sovereign classes, no Prometheus. Zheng He, no Prometheus. And if the Inquiry class is, like, Starfleet's best warship of the time, well, it's better than this. Like, yeah, the Federation just seemed to be, they tried it and went, wow, that sucked. Let's not build any more of those. And then didn't. If you want the benefit of 3 ships is they can go to 3 different places in, like, peacetime and stuff. They can do whatever. They can do different missions. But this, like, you can't do that. You have to have your 3 ships together. And it's never really made sense to me. I've also just realized, why is this 5th nacelle down and retracted? Because I guess it's, like, to make it aerodynamic. Maybe it's protected, but it's real vulnerable up here. But, like, what's the point? You're losing a lot of interior space on this top ship, so you're more aerodynamic? It's protected from the side, but then why isn't this a closed thing that opens? Because you could shoot it and it would break. Okay, you see my point, though? It's kind of weird decisions that have to happen because of really weird design constraints on the Prometheus. And that's why Starfleet never built them. Because, I mean, it works. It does what it set out to do. It's just not a niche we need. It's a niche that other things fill better. And so, yeah, I guess that's it. I hope you enjoyed a really weird one. Gonna be interesting to see the reaction to this episode. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe in the comments there'll be loads of people who's like, yeah, you know what? I've thought that Prometheus is overhyped. But, like, basically everything people love in Star Trek, I've seen comments that it's overhyped. First Contact, Wrath of Khan, Deep Space Nine? I don't know, actually. I don't know if I've seen that. But, like, basically, there's always people who's like, yeah, it's not my cup of tea. I don't think I've ever seen someone else who didn't really gel with the Prometheus. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we'll see. Maybe everyone will unsubscribe. Maybe everyone will tell me I'm wrong. But go ahead and tell me your Prometheus experiences in the comments below. So this was probably a bit of a shorter one. I don't know, probably 12 minutes. It's what I do for ships that I'm not as passionate about. Monday, we'll have a video where my partner reviews a bunch of ships. That was great fun. This was actually one of the models that inspired it, because it has 4 turbos. That'll be a bunch of videos, but if that sounds interesting to you, have a Star Trek noob review the first 20 Eaglemoss ships. Probably a bit less, because that was a real long recording session. I'll split it up. Keep an eye out for that. But for now, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Oh, also, we're still doing community votes for these reviews in the description and on the community page.